If you prescribe something like BPC 157 to someone, you got it from a 503A pharmacy. Okay, great. If it is not one of those three sources and you're a provider with a license and with a responsibility, then you're violating FDA law. You're going to be in front of your board explaining why you felt like it was a good idea to prescribe something that has a big fat label on it that says not for human use. You're a provider with a license and with a responsibility. Do not pass go, do not collect $200 because then you're violating FDA law. Like, wrong, strike one. And then you're going to be in front of your board explaining why you felt like it was a good idea to prescribe something to someone and give something someone that has a big fat label on it that says not for human use or wherever, right, whatever source you're getting. So it's like a double whammy. But if you are walking through that like logic, the decisions, if you prescribe something like BPC 157 to someone, you got it from a 503A pharmacy. That is the first thing that we have to check off. Okay, great. It is on a category 2, and it's not, according to the FDA, it's not supposed to be produced at the 503A pharmacy level. My argument to clients is, this is where it gets a little like there'll be two sides to the argument. They'll have two attorneys representing someone. You got it from a lawful source. Right. They are technically, maybe if I was representing the compounding pharmacy, I would probably have a different answer. But as a provider, did you vet that pharmacy? Did you look at their certifications? Do you understand part of their process? Do you feel confident in what you are getting from that pharmacy, providing that to your patients? The answer should be yes for every single thing that you do. So if you feel confident in that, then you're into clinical decision. This category 2 conversation is really the liability of the pharmacy. Now, you might be in front of your board and you might get an unreasonable board that says like, well, you should have, we don't know because that's not been in front of a board yet. But at least if you feel so compelled that these are life-changing for your patients, that we can get you there and make an argument on your behalf of how you were complying with the law, you were acting within the scope of your license. I tell people, like, I would represent you in that argument. If you're starting off by not getting it from one of those three sources, I wouldn't represent you. I wouldn't represent you because it's a losing argument from the beginning.
Right. So, and to clarify what Courtney's talking about, and by the way, preface, this is not legal or medical information or education from either of us, I should say. On the outside of the three sources, what we're specifically talking about is the research use only. And I've seen some companies, and I think this is, I'll use a strong word, I think it's kind of diabolical what they're doing. But I've seen some companies change to, hey, we'll just take the word research use only and replace it with physician use only.
I was hoping you were going to say that. This is
the
hogwash.
Grossest. It's gross. It's so gross. First of all, physician use only, what does that even, like, literally, could you imagine? So I try to tell providers, just like, again, I'm not an attorney. I don't know anything. But just imagine you're sitting up in front of a judge, in front of a jury, and you're a nurse practitioner, and now you not only have to defend yourself against a peptide, which no one knows what they are, but you have to defend yourself against where you got it from, which is not one of those three sources. You have to defend yourself that you're saying it's not research use only, it's physician use only, but you're not a physician. Also, when they say physician use only, what does that mean? Like, what does that imply? It's not coming from a pharmacy. So, like, it's just one of those things. And I've heard the other side of the argument, which would be something along the lines of, and I think you touched on this with Jeff, oh, well, it's like a supplement. And I'm thinking, okay, so now we have a sterile product, because most of them are injections, let's be real. We have a what should be a sterile product coming from a sterile facility, coming from a 503A or 503B, ideally, or a big time manufacturer, but it's not. And now we're instructing people how to inject that substance into their bodies which most of these substances have not had human control trials in any way, shape, or form. Like, again, just think through how in the world does a jury of people like my God-fearing mother and father sitting in front of you, they're going to say this is the stupidest thing you could have ever done. Even if you were trying to do what's right or best for your patient. Again, I'm not disparaging providers, but I think like I think the idea is also that pharmacies and or these companies have you in their best interest. And like these pharmacies, even compounding pharmacies, even though we might feel like we're on the right side of history, they do terrible, horrendous, illegal things all the time, just like many other businesses do. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that in some way, directly or indirectly, right?
Yeah, they have a monetary incentive to get you to purchase these things, just like sales reps for devices and machines. Like, I'm not saying that they're terrible people, of course, but
Right.
there's a monetary interest in there to be able to get people on board with the change of nomenclature to be physician. It is all just smoke and mirrors. And that's when as a provider, vetting where you are getting your materials from is so important to confirm it is from one of those three sources, whether they say physician only or whatever. Like, great, awesome. Can you show me your license? No. I'm not doing it. And one of the things I touched on with Jeff is I've worked with a lot of clients who are like, but I truly believe in these. Okay, great. Awesome. That's within the scope of your license. I'm not going to claim to know all of the clinical reasons that you believe in it so much that you would put your license on the line for it. But if that is how you believe, then you need to recommend it to people like you would a fish oil supplement. Like,
right.
Tell people that you personally have seen crazy good results with whatever it is. And they might ask you, I mean, I'm thinking of like the supplement lines that you can get at the grocery store. Like, well, there's so many options on Amazon. Like, which one would you pick? And it's like, I've heard a lot of really great success with these three, and leave it at that. If like that, but you can't just you can't just go from sitting across from someone virtually or in person, looking at their labs, telling them everything that they need to know to optimize their health, and be like, all right, now that I'm finished with being your provider, I'm going to take my hat off, and I'm going to not be your provider. I'm going to be a health coach. It's like with the license comes liability, and there's liability there because there's a responsibility. We have to have our patient's best interests in mind. And the patients are trusting you because you've given them advice thus far, specific advice related to their labs or how they're feeling. And you can't just take your license off.
Yeah, I love the way you're saying this, because again, I think you're right. When I hear it coming from you, like it's obviously not a gray area. Like I think it's rather black and white. I think where people feel like it might be a gray area is, I don't want to say like in their ignorance or their lack of knowledge, but a lot of it is that. Like I think a lot of providers are busy. They're business owners like you and I, small business owners, and they've got a lot on their plate. And they just want like a golden star check mark of approval from Courtney Walker saying, yes, prescribe it, knock your socks off, or myself. And there is a point in which, so for example, like, hey, I got a 6-year-old guy, fatigued, losing weight, can't sleep, miserable, blah, blah, blah. His testosterone came back at 200. Should I give him TRT? 100%. Nico, would you give me like a gold stamp of approval? Like, I mean, yeah, I would on that case, but at the end of the day, I'm not that person's provider. Right. So as much as this is the painful part of, number one, being in a profession where you're the authority figure, whether you like it or not. And also even as a business owner, you have to just make decisions that are personal to you and that patient or that client. And it might not be the one that Nico Misleh would choose, by the way.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe Nico's a little bit more avant-garde on some of those things. But I think for some of the peptide stuff, especially, I think people are willing to risk way more than they intend to, because there are people out there marketing products that, again, they think it's in good faith, and it's probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on that point, that's why I put so much emphasis, like talking about BPC 157, because I know there are some compounding pharmacies where you can legally as a provider get it. That is when it comes down to, okay, we've checked the box legally for you've got it from a lawful source. Now we're in clinical. And if you don't feel confident, it's one of my favorite parts about what I get to do now is when we get to clinical, I'm like, you're sitting in a room of your peers, which is, let's say 12 to 15 people. Awesome. There's 12 to 15 people on this call. If you can't make your clinical justification, I don't care what it is, you should not be doing it. You don't believe in it that much. You just believe in whatever Nico said, or you believe in whatever you read on a Facebook group. Like, that is when you have to stand up and be able to make your case. And there are people who really, really believe in this stuff, and they have the statistics, they have the studies, they've really done their homework. Okay, that's a good case. That's a good case should something ever come up, because you got it from a lawful source. You really believe in it. But if you stand up in front of a jury of your peers or in front of a board of your peers and be like, why did you do this? Well, Nico told me it was okay. They're going to look around and be like, where's Nico? Who's Nico?
Yeah. 100%.
It's not his license.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I think, unfortunately, it makes a lot of people squeamish. Like, oh, then what do I do? Just do nothing. I don't think that's the reality. I think it should be more of like an empowering thing. Like, look, like, Courtney and I both are in the business of helping people feel more confident and empowered. Like, at the end of the day, that really is like half of what we do, is just helping people like let's jump through some of these hoops and figure out some of this red tape. And is it there for a reason? And if so, can we realistically make a case around it or not? And we don't have to feel like we, can't get sleep at night because we're thinking about all the like iffy things we've done. But I think at the end of the day, I encourage, and I think you do too, like, you do have to take the time to vet things out, right? Like, if you're going to prescribe a peptide, what peptide is it? What are the studies behind it? Okay, cool. Someone gave you some studies. That's great. Did you go ahead and look at those studies? Are they good studies? Are they on like mice and rats, or is it on human beings?
Yeah.
There's just levels in which you have to take some accountability for, right?
Thank you so much for checking out this clip and tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. If you really liked it, I definitely recommend that you click here to watch the whole entire video where I go into much more detail. Thank you again for joining, and I'll see you there.